And we've got Stephen Reid joining us on the line. Stephen, thanks for joining us, pal.
No problems. Keith, I just bumped into Alan Judge, actually. I was just wandering along. So I've just been talking about knees and rehab for the last 15 minutes.
Did you really bump into Alan Judge?
It's good to see him. Hello, sorry?
You just bumped into Alan Judge, seriously?
Alan Judge, seriously. I've just popped into town, and Alan Judge, I just see him there with his missus and the kids.
No way.
As we always do when I bump into him, we usually end up talking about
the game ready and Dave Fever, the physio.
Game ready, all the injuries. I told him not to wander too far in case his knees start swelling up. It was good to see him. Good to have a chat.
He's a good lad. He's a good player. Alan Judge would have been at Blackburn when we were there together. He was a great young player.
We spoke a little bit about that, and we spoke about, because our injuries came at a similar time, because he was absolutely flying when he obviously had his ACL reconstruction, and I think he's still trying to find his feet and get back to his best, where he was. I remember seeing him and being in a Reading squad and involved at Reading when he was flying. So hopefully he gets back on track.
Yeah, I totally agree.
When you say pop into town, where is popping into town these days?
Well, Kingston. It's just pretty local now. I ended up moving sort of back down south. I was in Manchester, as Keith knows, for 15 years through my time at Blackburn and West Brom. But a couple of years ago, we decided to move back down south, back to London.
Back to the smoke, pal. Back to the smoke.
Back to the smoke. Back to the smoke, mate.
Listen, you left Crystal Palace at the end of the season. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing since. Has it been family time, just taking that little bit of time out to chill out a bit? Because you went straight into coaching from playing, didn't you?
A little bit of family time, Keith. I've sort of taken myself away from football a little bit. I've been to a couple of pro license events. I graduated in the summer and got my pro license, but just starting to get to a few games now. I'm going to West Brom at the weekend, and then going to do the Manchester Derby for you guys on Sunday, and then St George's Park again for a couple of days next week. So a few little bits and pieces, and catching up with people that I've not seen for a while, because as you know, Keith, you've been in it coaching and playing. Sometimes there's an old saying, it's ships in the night, and you don't catch up with people. But I've actually been doing a bit of that. I went up to Burnley to see Daishi and watch them train for a couple of days. So it's been good, actually. It's been good to get a little breather, because the last few years has been pretty full on.
Yeah, Joe, we were speaking earlier on. I told you when Stephen was coming on, and the first thing you said, what you want to talk about, was the role of as assistant manager stroke coach, wasn't it? And the time-wise.
Well, I'm very curious. So, I mean, it strikes me looking in from afar. I mean, you can put me wrong here, but the amount of time that the assistant has to put in, the money, all the glory. You know, being the manager is clearly, you know, you're kind of top dog, and then there's such a big fall off in the number two, and I don't think we fully get it. It was something Kev mentioned to me a while back, just how demanding the number two job is, for, you know, a lot less of the glory, a lot less of the money, all the trappings. Yeah, you've kind of been on that train.
Yeah, and it is full on. I literally went from playing into 2 weeks later, after retiring from playing, I was straight in at the deep end at Reading with Steve Clarke, and didn't really get any chance there to reflect on my career. Obviously, Keith knows the sort of turmoil at times I went through with the knee injuries, and the last 5-6 years of playing was really tough. And then to go straight into the coaching scene, which was obviously a great opportunity for a couple of years at Reading, it was tough. But you're right, you're so full on, and one of the most difficult things about it is the fact that you've got to come in every day motivated, enthusiastic, even when you're feeling terrible. You know, you might have lost a game the day before. Obviously, last season at Palace, we lost the first 7 and had no points and no goals. So you still got to come in positive. You still got to come in and try and lift the players, and at times lift the manager as well. And you sort of get caught in the middle a little bit, where actually who's there to give you a lift when you need it, maybe, because there isn't anyone really. It's just your job or I saw it as my job to try and lift the players, lift the group, but also when the manager was having those low moments, try and manage him and lift him as well. So it's non-stop. It really is full on.
And you can be the guy who's told, well, can you come in first thing in the morning, and then also can you maybe go and have a look at that team we're playing in 2 weeks' time, you know, 8, 9 o'clock at night. Like, the hours I hadn't fully appreciated are absolutely ferocious at times.
Well, it is full on. I know people say it. I'm sure people know it's not your normal sort of 8 till 6 or 9 till 5 job, and you can put your computer away and chill out and relax with the family, because it is full on the whole time. You might be in training all day, and then you've got to go to a game and scout a game in the evening. And even when I had a day off, it's not really a day off, because I'd be watching clips. The last couple of years I had the job of sort of set plays as well, so I'd be watching corners, free kicks, for and against, the strengths and weaknesses, and starting to put, especially at Reading, second year at Reading, was putting the video together ourselves. Change a little bit at Palace, where the analysts would have more of a influence on that. But on your days off, you're thinking about the next day. You're thinking about the training session, who's training. You might have to speak with a doctor. You might have to go through a meeting that you're going to take the next morning, and trying to prep yourself for that. So it is full on. It's non-stop, and I just found that you've not really got any days where you can really relax, because even if you do win a game, it's on to the next one. Within that initial relief and joy of the 3 points, within a short space of time, it's right, let's start watching clips and get ready for the next game, whether that's on the Tuesday or whether that's the next weekend.
That's where coaching, that's where modern day management is now. That's the level. And I read a piece in the paper last week, and it was the Guardian maybe spent a week with Javi Grazia at Watford. I don't know if you read it, and his schedule was exactly what Stephen's saying. So Stephen, first team coach at Crystal Palace, he's the go-between a lot of the times between the analyst, who we both know, a lad called Rob. He will be looking at those clips, the sports science department. That is the role. It is 24/7.
Everyone's coming
non-stop, and it takes its toll.
And alongside that, Keith, as well, you sort of got to filter out a lot of the noise. You've got to sort of decide, do I need to tell the manager that?
Yeah.
And you've got to, all the time, medical issues, sports science issues. As a manager, I don't want to speak to the manager about that. He's got enough on his plate, and you've sort of got to filter out the information that you do give him. Some managers want to know everything. Some managers don't want to know anything unless it's a crisis, unless it's an emergency. So there's all sorts going on.
That's very interesting.
It is relentless.
Didn't realise that some managers would be kind of like, you know, we were sort of half likening it outside to, I don't know, a law firm where you've got the partner, and then the assistant manager is the poor lad in his first year in there doing all the grunt work down the bottom, and only if it's really a big issue does it go upstairs, you know?
Most time, like whether it's players that Stephen's talking about, or the different departments within the football club, medical, sports science, analysis, it's grown so much, these different departments in the last year. And everybody goes to number 2 with a first team coach, because again, if we go back to when we were players, we'll have a moan up to the coach, because we know that'll get filtered back, whereas you wouldn't maybe be as brave saying that to the manager.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so is it like a touch of burnout with it, Stephen, or do you want to get back in, or did it kind of put you off doing the role?
No, it doesn't put me off it. I think the experiences that I had were incredible, and I still don't think that you can ever beat that feeling of winning a game, whether that's as a player or whether you're on the coaching staff. You just can't replace that feeling of winning a game, knowing what you've done during the week, especially on the coaching side. When you've worked all week, you might have had your individual meetings with a couple of players and see them deliver on a Saturday and go on and win the game. So I don't think it will be a case of walking away for good. I think it was just a case of just felt it was a time to enjoy the family a little bit more. I think this goes back to my last 6-7 years of playing, where when I look back at it now, for the whole of the kids' lives, I was icing my knee, I was flying all around the world for career-ending surgery, potentially career-saving surgeries, and I probably at times wasn't in a great place and never really had time to reflect on that, to look back at it, to actually enjoy some quality time with the family, because laughing about it now, but sort of seeing Judgy there on his day off, and I used to remember those when I had to think about, could I go out with the missus and the kids and push the pram around because my knee was starting to swell up. Just little things like that you take for granted, but that might mean you playing on a Saturday or a Tuesday night or missing the game because the knee's too swollen. So I think it's just a case of just taking a step back, having a bit of a breather, but still doing the bits of involvement with the coaching badges that I've started to help out a little bit with, and going to games as well. So I'm looking forward to the weekend, the West Brom one on Saturday and the Manchester derby on Sunday.
We were just chatting before you came on. I don't really cut the end of it maybe about the Ireland 21's job. Lee Carsey being linked with it today, and I was making the point that just because you're an ex-Irish international doesn't mean you should be associated with this type of job. And I've been involved with the underage teams, but the point I was making was he's certainly gone around things the right way. He's involved with the FA, and I know you do bits and bobs with the FA, and you've obviously got your pro licence over there. It's players, ex-players and coaches like him, like you, and I threw Duffer into the equation because he's taken it very seriously as well. Would that be something that might tempt you?
I think it could possibly. It definitely could. I know, obviously, having spoken to you over time, Keith, and especially when we spoke about it, or when we briefly spoke about it earlier on today about that role, and I think it's an important role. You know, you're looking at a 21s group that are still most of them in their development stage of their career. So I don't think it can go to someone that has no experience of that type of role or working in the game. For me, it'd be a difficult one to be a first job in football to head that up, because you've got to inspire this group. This hopefully will be the group that will then start dipping their toe into the senior setup, like you see with Gareth Southgate now. You've almost got players bypassing playing Premier League football almost and going straight from the 21s into the senior group. Yeah. So I don't see why that can't be a similar situation where you've got a group that are improving and developing in the 21s that then join the senior group. Because I still remember when I played 21s football, I used to absolutely buzz for meeting up. And when we used to have a 21s game against the senior team, the senior 11, and it was brilliant. And anyone that did well in that group and that 21s game against the seniors, Mick would throw in. He would call them over for a couple of training sessions. But that's why it's so important that 21s group are looked after, that are developed with good quality coaching that can hopefully help them along the way.
Yeah, I've constantly said about, and we were only chatting about it before, weren't we, about that link between, whereas at the moment I feel like the link isn't there between our senior team, our 21s. It seems that there's a big bridge between that, and gone are the days where Stephen just mentioned we're trained in the same place or arranged those early parts of the week of playing those little games against each other. And players like Stephen obviously shone where he got the opportunity. Mick throws him in because of certain things that he sees. So it's a massive appointment for us.
And Stephen, do you mind me asking, because I mean it's relatively fresh news that Noel King is stepping aside and moving elsewhere within the FAI. How does the process tend to work now? I mean, are you expected to apply and send in some kind of CV? Is there someone that you potentially phone, or do you just wait by the phone yourself and you hope maybe if it rings you have a chat? Like, is there any set way this thing works?
I think his agent sat here, isn't he? Me.
Yeah.
I mean, Keith Andrews is obviously getting 10%, but just in terms of...
But yeah, Keith makes a good point. I think if you're actively looking to get back in, you'd probably have an agent that would make a call, or you might know someone that's got a role at a club or is involved in the selection process that you might contact and let them know about your availability. The FAI might have someone in mind already, and it works the same at club level. Yeah. They might already have someone in mind already that they're earmarked. They still might advertise the role, but they might know that they know who they want in that role. But agents are playing a bigger and bigger part in not just, we're not talking about the top end of Premier League managers and coaches. You're talking all the way through the system from Premier League level all the way down to grassroots level, that you're going to be getting coaches that know someone or got an agent or know someone that can can make the phone call, make the email, and let your interest known. So also probably a little bit of word of mouth. There might be an article that a couple of names have mentioned, like Lee Carsley's been mentioned a few times about that role, and maybe someone in the FAI might see that and might not even know what he's up to. As stupid as it sounds, something like that, because even when I was working at Crystal Palace or Reading, I'd bump into people and say that I was at Reading or Palace, and it would be, oh, what role have you got there? What age group are you taking? So people actually don't know sometimes until they actually see you on the telly or read about it in the newspaper.
Not to turn this into a de facto job interview, but you've worked under some really good managers. You know, I think Roy Hodgson, everybody understands, knows how to set up a team, and Jaap Stam and various people. Who do you feel has shaped you? I guess it applies to your playing career as well as your coaching career. You know, when you're thinking about the manager you're going to be and how you might set up a team, whose voice is in your head, or what kind of lessons have you taken from people in particular?
I think there genuinely is a mixture. I think the way that Roy conducts himself on and away from the training ground is first class. I think he was speaking to people within the club, the players, staff. I think when he came in, and obviously I came in alongside with Ray Lewington as well, I think it brought a breath of fresh air. I think the respect that he's got for everyone at the club, he goes in the physio room every day to check on the injuries. He speaks 7 languages, so he had the respect of a lot of the players from the start. You know, the French boys used to love him. You know, if he used to speak to them in French, he was, you know, they fell in love with him from the start. Just little bits like that. Steve Clark's coaching and organisational skills were first class. So there is, I know people say it, and you sort of think as you go along, you'll take bits and pieces from each manager, but that genuinely is the case.
What are his 7 languages?
He speaks Swedish, he speaks French, he speaks a little bit of Spanish, he speaks
Italian, maybe.
I think Italian, sort of fluent in Italian. Well, how many's that?
He's a cool customer, though, isn't he? Really, the way I totally get you saying about the way he works, the way I would have got that as a player with him us together. But then you've seen a different side to that, going on to the staff side. Was he impressive in that aspect as well? Yeah.
But I just sort of carried it on, Keith. The way that I sort of went about my business as a player, that just sort of carried on when I worked alongside him. From being a player, I knew when he had the or in a mood, and how to deal with him, how to work alongside him as a player. And as soon as the manager's not out there, rightly or wrongly, it's not quite got the same intensity. And I think he knows that. I think from the experience, he knows that, and he's out there every day. Doesn't have to. There's some days, don't get me wrong, when I was thinking, you know, I'll take this little bit. You don't really need to be getting him, but he can't help it. He can't help but get involved, and I think that brings a respect around the club.
I presume, Stephen, you want to take a top job, to be a manager somewhere, as opposed to staying having a career as a number 2.
Yeah, I think after after the last 3 years, and you know, you get a feel of what you like, what you maybe don't like as much, and then sometimes you get a little bit frustrated as well, and you sort of think, you know, I want to actually maybe even plan a session a day or two before, or however you might want to work, and I think that's the ultimate aim, is to then, all what you've learned along the way, all the bits that you like and you don't like, you can sort of mould that into your own way of working with great people that you've worked with along the way, because that's what you sort of identify straight away. And Keith mentioned a little bit earlier in the call about one of the analysts at Crystal Palace who was spot on. You work with good people and you think, I'd like to work with someone like that later on down the line, and you sort of identify how you might do it and how you might want to work.
Yeah. And key question, would you be a tracksuit manager on the touchline, or are you going to go for a suit? Three-piece?
You better stick to tracksuits, I'm telling you.
Three-piece, surely.
Keith will have to point me in the right direction. I need to get a few. I've been in a tracksuit for 3 years, so yeah, Keith might have to he's looking sharp these days when I see him on the box, so I'll have to give him a shout.
How are your knees, by the way? Can you go for a run of a Wednesday afternoon? Shocking.
Do you know, everything after I finished playing, everything settled down nicely, and couldn't even look at a gym, let alone go in one. So everything was pretty good. And then back end of last season, I played a ball into a session and felt a strange click in the knee, and I sort of knew, you know, I can almost be a knee specialist. So I kind of knew what it was and settled down again. But I was away with the kids last week, and I was on a big inflatable thing in the sea. I was away for a few days, and the knees just ballooned again.
Wow.
So I might have to have it looked at again. But apart from that, yeah, the bit of running was fine.
Wow.
I was going to be playing in the soccer sixes in January in Glasgow. So I think that's knocked on the head, which is a bit disappointing. But all in all, it's not too bad. And to be honest, don't have to train or play anymore. So, you know, it is what it is. At least I've not got that pressure now of trying to get the swelling down and the knee dictating the life, which is a good place to be.
Yeah.
Before you go, you mentioned you're on commentary duty on Sunday. Well, I think you're with Nathan, aren't you, for the Manchester Derby?
I might be Dave, actually. I think.
Are you with Dave? Are you? Apologies.
Yeah, I think I'm with Dave. Yeah,
good stuff.
He's got number one. That's important.
He has got number one, to be fair. Before you go, talking of derbies, not particularly that one, but derbies you played in. What was the biggest one? Was it Millwall West Ham? Did you get to play in that one, or was it?
I didn't play to be
different leagues, were they?
I think the Blackburn Burnley one had quite a lot about it. Well, it was that one, or West Brom Wolves was massive as well. Obviously that.
So you played for Blackburn Burnley and Burnley Blackburn, didn't you?
What's that one, Keith?
You played Blackburn Burnley. Who was managing then?
That would have been. I think it would have been Sparky.
Was it? Yeah.
I think it was a cup game. It was the one of the Burnley fans run on and got right in Savage's face and thought it was all going to kick off. Yeah. That was a tasty one. That was a really tasty one, and the West Brom Wolves one as well. Maybe not as much, but that was a real big derby, and they're the ones that I really did enjoy playing in. Enjoyed it when you used to get a bit of stick off the opposition fans. Yeah. They're some of the games that you remember when you finish, especially that derby win where we won 5-1 at Wolves. That was probably one of the highlights of my time at West Brom.
West Brom, yeah. Listen, good luck on Sunday. I hope it goes well with the A commentator Dave, and and
I'll be talking to you from studio. You're surrounded by greatness. It's incredible.
Nice warm office.
And we'll keep you posted about that 21's job, right? Thanks for joining us. Boys. See you, pal.
All right.